What looks familiar on this log to you, Billy?
Them.
Some people would call it a bush potato, and some people would say it's more like a radish. So I'm going to take the skin off. This is called a youlk.
A youlk.
And this grows in Noongar country, in my country.
I've also heard of it being called a bush carrot.
Well, because it's crunchy and because it's part of the carrot family, yes, it can be bush carrot. So I'm going to cut this, and you can see it's quite crisp.
It looks almost like a pear. Smells like a pear.
Alice? Thank you, Dale. Does it smell like pear?
Yeah, to me it smells like a carrot. But you know what? You've all been tasting it, so I didn't tell you the golden rule about bush food before, which is always have a good local guide and get them to eat one first.
That's a good rule.
So where I come from, we've got a really bright red vegetable called bourne or mean or mudger, which is a hemodorum or bloodroot. And that's very hot if you eat it raw. But if you cook it, it becomes milder. So that's like having a crisp potato and a nice onion together. But in the southwest where I come from, we had more than 150 different tuberous plants that we could access through the year.
Wow. And the words have kind of vibration and feeling as well. So we call them onomatopoeia, words that sound the way that they look or feel. Something like youlk.
Youlk.
It's like a stubby word, isn't it?
Yeah. And youlk has two cousins, and one is called Kano and the other one's called Connor. And they all belong to the Platysac family, so they're all part of this tuber family.
Do you see another tuber on this log?
This skinny one.
This skinny little one here, this one is called a warrine. Now this one has a huge history for Aboriginal people who lived on Derbil Yerrigan, the Swan River in Western Australia, because we had huge yam gardens, warrine gardens. If you looked at early settler maps, you would see that they marked warrine holes, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that this referred to rabbits. But this is 1827, 1829, and we didn't have rabbits then. So they were referring to this tuber, which is the warrine, and we would eat it in Gerrin, autumnish, and Cumberung, late spring. I have dug these yams in the wild with my warriner, my digging stick, and they are very hard work to dig, just individually like that, because you have an aerial plant with a little green tendril that goes into the earth. You're digging your digging stick like this to loosen the ground, and you're scooping out the sand. And you mustn't lose sight of that green tendril. And that's going to go down up to 1 metre. And eventually you will reach the top of the tuber. And Europeans have written down that up to 600 people would gather there during Gerrin, autumnish, for ceremony, and they were fed from the yam gardens. So how big were those yam gardens to feed 600 people for several weeks?
Wow.
Pretty big.
Pretty big. And, if you were to go online and put in Lieutenant Grey getting shipwrecked near Kalbarri and having to walk back to Perth with his Noongar guide, you would find that in his journal he wrote, coming across yam gardens, this yam, the warrine, this is a Dioscorea hastifolia. And he wrote that those gardens were so extensive that he couldn't see where they started and he couldn't see where they finished. And they were 4 or 5 miles across.
Wow.
They had roads through them, wells were dug, and there were stone houses. So here we're introducing some concepts that people don't always associate with Aboriginal culture: agriculture and permanent dwellings. The reason the Europeans said warrine holes is because our old girls were really smart. They knew that digging that single yam one by one with a warriner stick was very hard work. So they would dig and leave the holes open. And that meant that when they were away, Mother Nature would send in all the leaf litter and all the water to nurture the plants. And when we came back, we would just dig in from the side and find the tubers. If I take this tuber, see how juicy that is?
Wow.
I'm just scraping that off.
That's like peeling a young potato or young ginger.
We would just eat it raw. Why cook it and destroy nutrients? There we go. You can eat it raw or bake it in the ashes.
Baked warrine would taste delicious.
I like it baked, but if you were just wanting a snack, you could just scrape that skin off and eat it just like that, just as you can with the youlk.